Hello again, Broncos country.
Really excited to chop up some Broncos with you all this week.
Bourbon, Broncos, and no BS.
Favorite time of the week. We're not for the Raiders, Chargers, or Chiefs. So grab your brews in your fantasy league. We got that blue and orange blood that you bleed. The most loyal fans there ever could be. We are that mile high Broncos country.
Orange Weekly, fans, brews, and Broncos news. What's up, everyone? Kev Dan here. Welcome to Bourbon Broncos No BS here on Orange Weekly. Broncos 2 games into the preseason. And last week, you guys gave me 10 seconds to celebrate a big preseason win. Can I have 20 seconds to celebrate this one?
I'll give you 2 extra. You got 12.
You get 12
seconds. Okay, I'm going to be happy with 12 seconds because it doesn't matter. We know that. However, the Broncos win 2 big games in a row, allowing 3 points against Seattle on the road, and our defense came up big. So, with that being said, here we go. We're back to reality. Big news out of today is there is a decision on the quarterback, and the decision is there's no decision. They don't even know who's starting at quarterback. That's a lie. I'm sure that they have an idea, at least, of who's going to start at quarterback for this coming week against the LA Rams in Denver. But they said, Coach Fangio said, we don't know yet. And there we go. So the answer is there's no answer. What do you guys think? Welcome, Jared, John, David. Post your comments, post your questions. Grab a drink responsibly, please. Don't drink and drive, all that fun jazz. But make sure you're having fun with us here. So with that being said, here we are going into week 3, final week of preseason, and hand it off to you guys. What are your thoughts?
Jared, it looks like you have some thoughts. You're like,
it's like you're about to explode, man.
Right. Or you like really have to go to the bathroom and like you didn't realize the time to do that was 5 minutes ago.
Look, if I would have been late again, you guys would have made fun of me, so I had to hold it in. All right. No, look, we all know the quarterback situation, and I don't want to say it, but I knew it was going to come down to we probably won't even find out anything till after the next preseason game, especially after today. Vic Fangio said he knows he's playing with us. I think he's having a little bit too much fun. I think, David, you said this in a tweet earlier. You know, he's having a little bit too much fun with this freaking out about who's going to be the starter concept. And don't get me wrong, they're both playing very well with their ones. And again, 2 preseason games, both of them are doing very well with the ones. And that's what it looks like. And it's nice, David, you're going to say it again, and I'm gonna piggyback off of it. But our quarterback floor this year is so much higher than it was last year that it's a lot of good to look forward to.
I mean, momentarily, it happens more than momentarily, Rob. It's like for a half hour, 45 minutes sometimes. So it was nice to have it back so quickly. Keith, you've got an excellent point. Yeah, even though it's preseason, really nice to just see the offense be putting up points. The defense created turnovers this last game, exactly what we expect from them in the regular season. Let's give a shout out to everybody who's here. Brian is here. Randy, big time Drew supporter. Let's see who else is here. Edgar's here. We've got Jerry John here. K. We've got John K's here again. Thanks, John, for coming back. Man, yeah, John, I bet it was hot today. It was hot everywhere in Colorado. And I hear it was a 2.5 hour session, full pads today. So, they're not resting on those 30 points per game. They're getting ready for the regular season here. Hey, Glenn, good to see you again. Thanks for coming by. Just thoughts on the quarterback position in general, like you said, Jared. I know the old axiom is, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks, right? But we may be talking about a scenario here where the Broncos, I'm not saying they have two top 10 or top 15 quarterbacks, but they've got two guys who may be able to take this team to like a double-digit win, 10-7 kind of season. That at this point, if they can carry over what they've shown in the preseason games as far as good decision-making, as far as, if you're Locke, getting through reads, doing, having good footwork and getting the ball out on time. If you're Bridgewater, it's, getting the ball. Dan, of course, how could we miss you? And Rob, team puffball forever. Team puffball forever, Jared, deal with it. Just what if you've got two quarterbacks who can do with this defense enough to get you to the playoffs? That it's not a scenario that is enviable by any means, but John, what do you think? It's certainly not the worst scenario.
It's a much better scenario than what we've seen in recent years.
Yeah.
But, I'll say it again. I think I've said it every single time we've been on. We should feel pretty damn confident in whoever we start at quarterback.
Yeah.
And we'll just get it out of the way early in this episode as well. I have a lot of confidence in whoever we pick. And I think it's just showing what Fangio's been saying all along is that, look, it's super tight. We're going to make a decision when we're going to make a decision. But don't worry about it, honestly, because they're both competing well.
And one thing that should just encourage all of Broncos country is both of these quarterbacks have showed their best in the preseason when they've been with the ones. They've both shown when they've got the number one offensive line and the number one skill set guys out there, they can do a good job with this offense moving the ball and scoring points. And that's what you want to see carry over into the regular season more than anything else, right, Jared?
Yeah, well, and that's the important part is in the difference between this year and the field this year than there was in past years, Mark Sanchez, was that our quarterback battles have been positive, right? Like our quarterback battles are like, okay, we got two quarterbacks going into the preseason and they're both excelling to the point where both of them are doing so well that it's really hard. You're talking about, Twitter sphere and Facebook and all the MySpace people are picking apart little things that are differences. And at this point, we're just happy to be on the side of we're picking the best of two really good people that are playing very well, as opposed to, all right, so we got two average quarterbacks that we got to choose from. So, and again, I would love to say, I have my opinion, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. Whoever the coaching staff and the front office choose to be our quarterback going forward, I'm going to support them fully. And if that person goes down for whatever reason, injury or whatever the case is, I know we have someone that back there that can continue the momentum and it's not one of those one-offs.
Absolutely.
So Isaac brings up a good point here, and this is kind of the one thing where I'm looking at this. If there's a difference, I think Drew Lock does have some upside. We don't know what his real ceiling is. We've seen him improve over the course of the one real offseason that he's had, right? He's had some continuity with the playbook. He has, a lot of the same players around him. And we've seen him improve going into his third year, right? His second full year. Mm-hmm. Teddy, we kind of know what Teddy is. They call him Steady Teddy for a reason. But there is a very good argument for, that is what this team could need, is just somebody to not turn over the ball. But you're not really going to see him, I think, move around a lot, and you're not going to see him make a lot of deep passes like you would see from the gunslinger mentality of Drew Lock. So where do you go with? Do you go with somebody who has an upside or a potential upside, if he is still improving, or do you go with somebody like, Teddy Bridgewater, who's probably going to get you, for sure, some of those wins in September, which, you're thinking about Coach Fangio in his position. He needs to win in September. His job more or less is on the line this year. And so you have an argument there, both sides that could be, have a difference one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, Kevin, and I don't mean to disagree with you, but I definitely mean to disagree with you. I think the concept that Teddy's the checkdown king, and we saw it in camp, right? He was definitely doing a lot more checkdowns, but I think that was kind of disproven. I think his ceiling's a lot higher than a lot of people think. in that last preseason game. If you watched, we're 10 minutes in, I'm now already shouting out Tim Jenkins. If you watched his breakdown and the way that he steps up in the pocket and the way that he delivers balls downfield, that's not the old Teddy that we're used to. That's not the Teddy that we saw even in college before he got drafted so high. I think it's a new Teddy Bridgewater that we're not used to seeing once we get in the game. Obviously, what happens at camp is something that we're not seeing, the four of us. But I do think he has a higher ceiling than a lot of people are giving him credit for.
And I think the skill position group, I mean, it's, there was a range of outcomes for these guys this year. You've got 2 second-year players that you're going to be, in theory, relying on heavily in Hamler and Judy. Noah Fant, you're relying on him. You've got Cortland Sutton coming back from a big injury. He was your number one receiver at the time that he went down. So, there's a range of outcomes with these guys that, can go from one of them pans out to all of them pan out, and they can lift whoever is at quarterback substantially. And just from what we've seen so far in the preseason, and it's tiny sample size, whatever vanilla defense is, whatever that argument even is. But so far, it's looking like you really are going to see closer to the upside side of that spectrum. KJ Hamler looks insane. If you can keep him healthy, he looks like he's going to have a big year no matter who's throwing in the ball. Jerry Jeudy, monster breakout candidate, like already kind of a star, and just caught balls from both quarterbacks in preseason and turned it into more than it was. It's, you're in kind of a really good position with those guys, and I think that's going to help your quarterback position so much. I think that's kind of what we're seeing here, why you're seeing maybe the floor being elevated so much no matter which guy you're talking about.
Yeah, I think the biggest disappointment would be if we didn't capitalize on those young, dynamic players and we just stuck to a ground and pound game, playing with our defense and taking the safe route, which is what I've heard other people say, that really is a defensive-minded coach is going to look for that safer bet, which may be a Teddy Bridgewater. But, man, that would be a big disappointment for all of us fans to not see Judy have that breakout year and be stuck to 700, 800 yards, where he's so capable of so much more. So it'll be interesting. And I know we all want the decision made now as fans, but I'd rather it be the right decision come week one than, knowing early and it being the wrong decision.
Would you guys say that whoever starts this game is going to be the starter for week one?
No.
Even if they don't say it out loud?
No. Because I want to see if they both get time with the number one offense this game. So who starts?
Do you think they're going to play at least good number of starters in the
I don't know. Maybe they will, and maybe they it's the third preseason game. But to me, you want to get both of these guys as many reps with the number one offense in live game action as you can before you make that decision. It just, from a coaching standpoint, that makes the most sense to me. Maybe I'm completely off it. Maybe they decide to do the thing that they almost always do in the last preseason game, before, when it was 4 games, and they just rest all of the starters and it's a depth guys only playing. But to me, you want to see what these guys have with the number one offense as much as possible. So you see, I can see a transition coming already.
Oh, no, you already took it from me, so now I can't use that one.
Right.
I like where you're going, though, Robert. I like what you're thinking. Your head's where my head's at.
Yeah. To me, it would make sense to me to see some of these guys, both of these guys play with the starters some. That would be, to me, the bigger test is if they do both get time with the starters, how do they each do against the Rams?
I would agree with that. I think they're both going to get time with the first team offense. I think we are going to be playing our starters this game. I will say, to Kevin's point, I would say whoever starts the game probably goes in with the edge, but not necessarily the game one starter. But after last game, Fangio came out and he said, "Look, Bond's probably going to play next week against the Rams." Along with Cortland Sutton, and there's one more that I'm blanking on from that press conference, which
Melvin Gordon maybe, but yeah,
it might have been Gordon. So I don't think it's going to be a normal fourth game where we're resting all the starters.
Yeah, right.
I want to see him light a fire and watch the world burn, and I want Rippon to start. I want Rippon to start preseason game 3 and just see Twitter explode. That's all.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much what happened today. I was waiting for it. I got the notification that Fangio's going live after practice, and I clicked on it. I'm like, here it comes. Here it comes. He's going to say it. And he stood up there and said, no.
Nope.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes up there and we're like, who's me the starter? And he says, Brett.
Oh, God.
"Ah."
Oh, Lord, we're going to do this. We're just going to put all this chaos energy. And John, who was there today, is going to help you guys. He's going to help you put this energy out into the universe with this comment. I just like
great and Scout. I mean, why not give him a fair shot, right? We're giving these guys fair shots with the ones.
Oh man, why don't we re-sign Kyle Sloter, and then we'll do a variation of what I suggested earlier this offseason on Twitter. We won the wing T with 4 quarterbacks, and it's just option, triple option, quadruple option. You can do quintuple option. There's nothing stopping you. As far as I know, that's not an illegal formation. All I'm saying,
the Army offense we're going to be running here.
Absolutely, try and stop us.
Right.
What's Tim Tebow doing? He's a free agent.
Some people want to see the world burn, and Jared is definitely one of those people. So thank you for just tossing that. I don't know how many minutes we've been talking about Ripon for now.
Yeah, right. Bless him, but it's that many minutes too many.
Yes. Now here's a good question from Dan. Don't you think Teddy can groom these young receivers with Locke? It's like a student trying to be a teacher. Fair point. I mean, he has that veteran, experience, 8 years experience in the NFL. I mean, even with the couple of years he was out injured, I mean, he's still been around teams and everything like that. So, that is one aspect that Drew just doesn't have.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, there's a select group of guys in the NFL, and it's a really small group that can, like, quote unquote, groom receivers. When I think of the term, obviously all quarterbacks work on chemistry with their receivers. They all work on, running routes and throwing balls together after practice and stuff like that. Everybody in the league. But to me, when I hear the word groom, it's much more like a Peyton Manning scenario where he doesn't just, stay after and run routes with you. He explains the aspects of the playbook that are most important for you to know from him. Otherwise, he's not going to throw you the ball. So, there's an Aaron Rodgers, there's a Tom Brady, there's, those guys out there that when I think of that word groom, that really have that effect on receivers that way. So I get what you're saying. I'm not sure that there's that many quarterbacks that have that kind of impact on their receiver core.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to have this conversation had Sutton played all of last year, because from everything we were hearing, they were gelling awesome in camp last year. And then he goes down, obviously. So, you have to also realize last year that Locke was dealing with a lot of rookie, like Hamler, Judy. These are all rookies as well. So,
yeah.
Patrick was never a starter. He was never one of the top guys until.
So, and it's not like Locke is a student. He's not a student. He's been in the league for 3 years now. It's not like he's a rookie.
Yeah.
But now having a presence in the huddle, I kind of agree from that sense that Bridgewater having that veteran experience might command a huddle differently and potentially better than Locke would.
Yeah. And I have to agree with John here too. Shout out to Coach Zach Azzani for, he's been kind of an underrated member of this coaching staff for a few years now.
Absolutely.
Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, these guys he has really brought up. And not just them, but Tim Patrick, guys that, kind of came in from the bottom of the roster, and he really got them to contribute meaningfully.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys that, especially specifically the wide receivers, we would have somebody fill in at slot and go out there and have a great game.
Yeah.
And so, the only thing going back to the Teddy Bridgewater being a mentor in the huddle, there's a reason we brought him in. And I do believe this. I'm fully bought into the idea that we were talking about before we even got him, was the idea that we wanted a veteran presence just on the offense in general with a young team. And you can have that in practice. You can have that, like you guys were saying, the after hours. I think today one of the tweets that was really funny was like, Teddy Bridgewater's out there throwing balls after practice to Drew Lock. Right. Like he's, they're out there playing catch together, and, Drew Lock's running receiver routes. And that gel, that mentality, that locker room presence is great And I don't know if it's necessary to be out on the field, if it can happen off field as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it can happen on the sideline, people come to sideline. Now, don't get me wrong. I think if Drew Lock wins this, if he does win this quarterback battle, Teddy Bridgewater's not going anywhere.
No,
he's going to be out there. He's going to be helping. He's going to be looking at the iPad. He's going to be watching the film. He's going to be helping out Drew Lock and the receivers. I think that's the whole point of having him there in the first place. Now, he's also playing very well, right? And again, being on the positive side, that's a great thing for us. Right. And it does make a difficult decision for the coaching staff in the front office to be like, wow, they're both playing really well. How do we choose between these two? Like I said, I do believe they have an idea who is going to be playing, and they're just playing with us.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, it's more, at this point, it's if you're them, why not shake up Broncos Twitter a little bit? Like they've been on your ass all season. Tweak them a little bit.
Right.
I think he's, there's nothing wrong with, playing with us a little bit, and, there's the competitive advantage and whatnot. But, there would be a situation, if I was really annoyed where I called somebody and, asked them, an answer, or I asked them a question and the answer was very vague and, kind of misleading. Let's say that I was in a car accident and I called my auto insurance people and I said, hey, am I covered? And they say, well, I don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see. Well, what's your name? I got to leave for the day. I don't really care. And that'd be really annoying, right? I think we can all agree to that. Well, you're definitely not going to get that kind of treatment with Centennial State Insurance Agency. They are going to take care of you. They're going to be a whole lot more straightforward with you than Coach Fangio is when it comes to any kind of situation that you may be stuck in. So make sure you give them a call, 303-838-0554. They know they spend time getting to know you and what your needs are, whether it's homeowners insurance, auto insurance, whatever it is. And like I said, they'll be the ones to take care of you. You call them, you're going to have a dedicated insurance agent that'll be there to help you. And you're not going to be sitting on hold for 45 minutes with somebody in some other country who, like I said, doesn't care about you. So make sure you give Centennial State Insurance Agency a call for all of your insurance needs, 303-838-0554.
Transition.
That was a transition.
You're getting better.
Yeah.
It took me a second before I even realized what was going on.
I me too.
Mr. Boggins, thank you, good sir.
All right, some Kevin stands in the audience. I love it.
Yes.
All right. We have gotten some pretty good other questions here. What do you think? Do you want to stick with the offense here, boys? Are we ready to pivot?
Let's finish off the first half of the show because that's what everyone's talking about. But I do have this is a good question, Dan. And I will tell you this. I bet you that the difference in leash of the fans and the coaching staff are different. Probably about 2 to 3 games.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference comparatively, right? When you're talking like, I think if we go out, especially in the first 4 games, right? If we go out in the first 4 games and lose 3 of those first 4, Twitter, Facebook, the fandom is going to be calling for heads, right? Regardless of whose head, they're going to be calling for quarterback. They're going to be calling for coach. They're going to be calling for offensive coordinator. They're going to be calling for everybody. And we a lot of our commenters, a lot of you guys are probably going to be calling for him. But I think the coaching staff's going to give them at least 4 to 5 with a 17-game season, 4 or 5 to 6 games. If they're showing glimpses of good things, if we're losing by, a field goal here and there, or whatever the case is, someone's going to stick around. I think there's a difference. I think there's a difference about 3 to 4 games between fans calling for people's jobs and the coaching staff actually taking it.
Yeah.
John right here. Yeah. Can't lose to the Jags. Completely agree. He's going to call for heads. I wouldn't be surprised if he call for our heads. These the guys, they're to blame too.
Right. So. Yeah. And it's, we've talked about a little bit already about Fangio's struggles in September, but there's just no excuses this September. You've got to beat these teams that we're playing to start off the season, whoever's the quarterback. And that's we were talking about our enthusiasm earlier, our optimism earlier. It's because I think either of these guys playing the way that they are can beat the Jaguars and the Giants and the Jets. And
it's that coupled with our defense. And that's assuming we're going to go into the season healthy, right?
Healthy, absolutely.
That's really what the foundation is the defense there. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's the way the team wants to play. It's the team, the way this coaching staff has always wanted to play. And they've got now a running game and can we just for a second? I need to talk about Javonte Williams again because good Lord, how many tackles does he break just in a play? Sometimes it's so absurd. Yeah, all right. I could go on. We could do an entire Javonte Williams stand show, and maybe we will. Maybe we should. But because good Lord, but yeah, they want to. I know they want to run the ball. Williams and Gordon could easily be one of the better running back tandems to start the season in the league. So, you're just not asking your quarterbacks to do that much if they can both show, the care they've shown with the football, if nothing else. If none of the other stuff translates over from the preseason, the care they've shown in not turning over the football, that coupled with everything else we're going to do with this football team, which all of that is a really roundabout way to say that the leash should be kind of short, I would think. And I understand it's going to be longer for the coaches than it is for us. But, with all of those factors figuring into helping out these quarterbacks, I don't know. It seems like the leash would be rather short to me.
Yeah, I think so as well. And if we are losing 2 of those first 3 games, if we lose one of those first 3 games, and we're talking about a super soft September schedule until we come up against the Ravens first week of October. So we should be winning those games. If we're not winning those games, that's a bigger problem than our quarterback situation.
Yeah.
Now, if they're performing poorly, the quarterback specifically, I think it would take a lot for them to pull one of them, even if we're winning games in those first 3 games. But one thing to keep in mind as far as the leash goes, this is Fangio's. If he doesn't succeed this year, he's probably out. So that leash is probably pretty short for him when it comes to the quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see if whoever the starter is, if they struggle at all, or if they're struggling consistently in games, but we're still winning if they still make that move.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good point. I'd like to see if someone's struggling in a game after 2 to 3 drives of just not being able to do it, throw the other guy in.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be a thought process with both of them being so successful. Again, preseason, I don't think it's going to actually happen in the game, but it's interesting. So here's another thing I want to mention too, if I can get here we go. So we got Melvin Gordon also looked, thanks John, who was at camp today at practice, looked explosive today, which is nice. And then you're right, Royce Freeman's also looking good, but you know what that means, and he's not here, but Matt would love to say it. What does it mean when we have 3 running backs that are looking very good preseason practice and everything? That means we have a great offensive line.
Yeah,
I think our offensive line is really making moves comparatively to this is probably the first year that I'm actually confident going into the season with our offensive line. Especially, I mean, we've had a bad offensive line for so long. I mean, we haven't been able to find the right guys to fill the right spots, but I'm very confident in this offensive line going forward, and to be able to say that we have some backups that we can fill in if we need to. I just, maybe I'm too optimistic. But the way that the preseason's been going, the way that these guys have been playing, just looks like we're a full developed team ready to go into the end of the season.
Yeah. I think this is the most mature a Fangio team has been in Denver. Let's see what we get.
Yeah. My one concern, and it's been a concern for years for us, is that right tackle position. Yep. Do we have confidence in Massey to be that guy? I know they love Calvin Anderson, but I don't think he's going in as a starter. I think he's going to be that swing tackle for us.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. I have Massey. I have confidence in Massey until I see a reason not to. Let's put it that way. Yeah, and that might be very apparent very early, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, and not only that, but you're right. You got to give them the face, but they believe in Calvin Anderson. Yeah. I think the coaching staff is pretty confident in if something happens to Massey to put in Anderson. I don't think that's a piece where they're worried. Now, obviously, you're right. That's an issue that we've been having for a long time, and we're going to stay focused on it as analysts. But I do think they feel confident, and it's shown in the preseason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my concern is we also had Wilkinson there that we loved as that swing tackle, and that didn't really pan out for us.
Can we just just move on from okay? Can we just
come on?
I mean, not with this thing works, so I feel like I can talk shit.
No, you're right. Right.
All right. So, what about before we go to defense? Quick thoughts on special teams.
I mean,
they exist.
Yeah, it wasn't. There was some punt kickoff coverage that. I was concerned about that again. Great.
Look, because I know John and I were talking about in the post game podcast. So make sure you all go check that out on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcast. That was published today. But we were talking about that in that, we don't need to have the number one, ranked special teams in the league, but it's going to probably cost us a couple games, I would imagine, if we have the same absolutely terrible 32nd ranked special teams we did last year. And so is that something that you're all concerned about going into the season at all?
Can't let it get on my radar too much right now. Let me put it to you that way. Can't let it raise my stress levels to see a couple of decent returns in the second quarter of a preseason game. That's, again, it might be one of those things that in the regular season proves itself to be a problem very, very quickly. But until then, blood pressure's already all over the place. Doctors all over my ass. Can't get worked up about the special teams yet.
I will say, Dan, from an optics. Sorry, go ahead, Jared.
I was just going to say real quick on this comment, Dan, this is the one person at the end of last season with this, as shitty as we went, this is the one thing that Orange Weekly collectively was like, if he got fired, we'd all be okay with it. And he hasn't. He's still with us. He's still our special teams coordinator. So if he doesn't make a huge leap, this might be one of those I told you so moments from the collective us. And I don't think it's just us. I think it's a lot of fans.
It's like most of Broncos country at this point. Yeah. If they were this united about the quarterback, who's, supporting whoever wins the quarterback battle, we'd be all set.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But from an optics standpoint, it was not great to see that against Seattle. Those long kick returns, the block punt, that was gave us a little bit of flashbacks from previous years. So that's a little bit of concern, but just like anything in the preseason, let's see what happens in the regular season, like you guys are saying. Okay. And the other thing is I don't know who was on the field for those returns. I mean, a lot of our backups were playing as our starters, so we might not even had our first team, kick return or punt return coverage team in that.
This is a really good point because we have to remember that we still have, 70-something players still,
80.
or almost 80? So we have 80 players. We're down to 80, and we have not cut down. Those guys that were out there are probably trying to make the team.
Yeah,
they're trying. All those guys, especially on special teams, those aren't going to be our special. Those guys are going to be probably the ones that be cut. That's a good point, John. And specifically in preseason, I think special teams needs to be kind of like let's wait till week 1, week 2 to really judge to see what was happening.
So we'll see by this time next week, everyone, we will have a final 53-man roster, which will be cut down by the end of the day on the 31st. So by the time you come back here next week, we'll have that 53-man roster for you. So, yeah. Do you want to move over to defense? I was going to spend a little bit of time maybe talking about if you have any ideas, any guesses as to surprise cuts or anything like that, but we can talk about defense first if you want.
One last
defense
offense.
And let's go to press cut. Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, because one last offense, because we got asked about it from John, who was the running back that was added. If Stevie Scott III, who I think is a rookie, played University of Indiana. No, he's been with the Saints at before this, but it looks like they picked him up. I think Adrian Killens, the guy who they just picked up last week, they announced today they put him on IR. Yeah, waived injured. Because he got injured pretty badly in the Seahawks game. So yeah, kind of a war of attrition there as far as the 4th, 5th string running back goes. But that's who they picked up for. I don't want to say camp body, but at this point in the off season,
camp body.
Yeah, it's a camp body. You're allowed to carry 80 right now. They want to carry 80, and they looked at the numbers and there was what do we want to pick up? Where do we want to go? Let's go running back because you're right. We have 3 really healthy, probably going to make the team running backs, unfortunately. Yep. And having that extra guy, even if he could play special teams, would be nice.
Yeah, for sure. All right, pivot.
Defense.
Yes, Jared.
Wow.
Good.
Okay, Dave.
Actually, no, you should turn all the way around, Jared, and do the rest of the show facing the flag. There we go. Okay. Yeah, good. Okay. All right. This is good.
I was expecting a bald spot, but that's disappointing.
No, I know.
I have great hair.
Mm-hmm.
I have great. If it wasn't for the military, this would be long and flowy.
I've seen it both long and flowy, and it's real bad.
So hence the visor, so you can still show off that.
Yeah,
the visor. That's the reason for the visor. You got to be able to show off the great hair.
Yeah, beautiful. I guess. So
time out.
for about approximately a forever ago, John, who has been another superstar for us tonight, asked us about a specific player who got cut, Josh Watson, who spent time with the active roster kind of a lot last season at inside linebacker. And he was one of the players that didn't even make it to the final round of cuts. They decided to let him go. So his question was what it means for Baron Browning going forward. Browning didn't look great. He did see his first preseason action against the Seahawks. It was not good. But it says at least, yeah, right. But to me, it says that the coaching staff saw enough in OTAs because, he really hasn't been practicing that much in training camp either, but they saw enough in OTAs and are seeing enough now on the practice field from him already to justify letting go somebody who, like we already said, played kind of significant snaps at times for the defense last season.
Right.
Yeah, I was really surprised to see that he didn't make it down past the 80 limit since he did. He was on our active roster, I think, for every game last year. So being a CSU guy, it's very disappointing to see that happen. It was great to seeing him in the preseason again. Love that. But I don't know. Hopefully that just means he's going to land on his feet with another team and hopefully at least make a practice squad somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, specifically when we're talking about like special teams, they must have a lot of faith in especially cornerback depth. I think that's what this is really going to come down to. I think we're going to keep a lot more secondaries and linebackers this year based on the special teams depth is what I'm looking at. So the other thing too, we have to remember, obviously it's great for Browning, but we got to remember we have Stranad, who we didn't have all year last year, who's been playing very well in the preseason. And I think he's another guy that we kind of forget about in the mix just because we didn't see him for a whole year. He's another guy that's definitely going to be one of those starting linebackers. I know. I love our defense. I think our defense is very, very strong, and there's very little negative things I can say. To kind of move on to the next section, because I love talking about secondary. Michael Ojemudia, have you guys heard anything about his injury? I haven't seen anything official other than Vic kind of saying it's not as serious as they thought.
A few weeks. I think he was saying about 4 weeks, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's what I think. Kliss had a tweet today. He said 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, like John says, 4 to 6 weeks. So yeah, he'll be back in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the regular season at the very least, which is good news. He was CB cornerback 5 running through the preseason here, but from all reports, he was having a decent offseason. So,
which is funny because at one point he was the only cornerback on the roster.
Right, he was like CB2.
He was CB1 and only one. At one
and
point.
only one. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah. But we have so much depth at cornerback. I'm not too worried about to start this season. It'll be nice to get him back to get that depth as long as we can keep those other guys healthy and get him spun back up because he's looked great this preseason, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you? We've got a good question circling back to the inside linebackers from Keith here, and it goes back to what you were saying with Jared about Stranad. Does Josie Jewell get cut this offseason? And I don't know. I would lean towards probably not, but if he does, it would be the kind of move that would not surprise me, just given everything we've heard about how far Stranad has come. Given how lost Browning looked a little bit in his first game action, it would surprise me if they cut Jewell just because that's, if you do cut Jewell, then you've got Browning as your primary backup there to Stranad and Johnson. To me, I'm kind of here with Glenn. Jewell's not expensive. He's not a guy who you're going to re-sign because he's in the last year of his contract. So this probably is the last year you see Josie Jewell in a Broncos uniform, but it would be a little bit of a surprise cut. Not shocking, but a surprise cut.
Yeah.
I mean, that inside linebacker, him and Johnson were our top 2 inside linebackers last year, the whole season. There's no way we kind of cut him. If somebody takes over his starting job, that's one thing. If he got cut, I would be surprised. I think.
Big shock.
Right. I mean, he was our number one. I mean, he started almost every game for us last year. So it'd be really hard to take him from that to just completely cut, especially since our linebacker, other than Stranad and Browning inside linebacker. If we use Browning as inside linebacker, right, we've been kind of tossing that back and forth and where he's been playing. But if that's the case, those are our 4, and we have to have a couple backups there at the inside linebacker position.
Right, and those 2 are young too, so let's keep Jewell, let's keep Johnson. let these guys develop behind them, and they can be the starter next year, But Fangio's also going to rotate these guys. It's not like they're not going to be on the field if they're not the number ones. He's going to rotate guys in and out. He finds the best packages to get these guys involved in the game, even if they're not the number ones in the base package for us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, what do we think? Let's see. If we're going to talk about linebackers from Ohio State, can we do a little bit of a shout out to Jonathan Cooper?
Can we?
He played his ass off.
He had another really good game. He's stacking good games.
Monster.
Yeah, and it's already, the edge depth is already looking real enviable here because Malik Reed also looks really good. Bradley Chubb, and I think this was a little bit of a gift, to get into the top 50 of NFL players but he was the top 40th overall player in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that's, named by his peers and coaches in the league. But yeah, Cooper, you've got Reed there, you've got Chubb, and then, who's that other guy? Super Bowl MVP?
I don't know.
I know. I haven't seen him in a very, very long time.
Right. Yeah, he does wear 58, Kev. Yeah. It's going to be real interesting to see this pass rush group. I'm excited. Cooper's going to turn out to be a major steal, I think. I think you can probably pencil him in for 3+ sacks just in rotational duty this year.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's that pass rush coupled with the secondary.
Yeah.
That's
it. Yeah. Quarterbacks are going to have to hold the ball. And that's what I'm so excited for against these, in these first few games, especially is the young quarterbacks. Even the Cam's
I'm sorry.
That was
good.
That's good.
That was good, Glenn. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, what was I saying before Glenn's good joke there? I really can't remember. Anyway, enviable position with the secondary too. That's what I was saying. These young quarterbacks, you've got Daniel Jones is the longest tenured quarterback in those first few games there. You've got the Fangio system that already makes quarterbacks unsure of what they're seeing between pre and post snap. And then you've got, Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson in there. The defense could really feast on these guys early.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, especially on defense, it's going to be very, very hard to get to a 53.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is. There's going to be some depth guys that are going to get snapped up immediately.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And one bummer there is, we're talking about 4 guys at that outside linebacker position, but we've also had a breakout undrafted rookie in Mintz that, how many people are we keeping at that outside linebacker position?
It's true. And we'll see.
Bummer to lose him just because of we're so stacked at other positions.
He's going to get some game action against the Rams too. He's back at practice. He was in the concussion protocol, I believe, but he's back now. So yeah, he's got another chance to maybe find his way onto the roster this week.
This is going to be so difficult. And we were talking about, Kevin, I think you were asking us about surprise cuts. I think we're going to have a lot of surprise cuts.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, I think there's going to be people like, man, he played so well. Like, what happened? But just because of depth, based on depth, like it's going to be very difficult we're going to lose some guys that a lot of us are going to be heartbroken on. I definitely have a feeling by this time next week, we're going to be drinking some sorrows for some people.
For sure. Yeah. Like, and let's maybe transition now. We've talked a lot about the Seahawks game, offense, defense now. And what do you guys think transitioning into the Rams game? Who are you really going to be watching? What are you really going to be watching for other than some clarity at the quarterback position, which I think we can all agree on and we covered kind of exhaustively.
Defensively, I want to. Oh, Kevin, go ahead. Yeah, I think you're muted. Defensively, I'm looking at. There he is.
Go for it, Jared.
Defensively, I'm looking at Caden Stearns.
Yeah,
I think I like the way that he's been playing lately. I think he could really make a big impact on this team as Kareem Jackson's backup and / future replacement, right? And I think he's been playing very well, and I think this is a good chance against a throwing first team to be able to make a statement and show what he's got. And I have a lot of faith in him. And if he can step up, you're talking about our other 2 strong safeties, and Locke and Vincent are going to be gone. That's unfortunate. But yeah, like I said, part of the game, and I want to see him make this roster. I want to see him have a big game.
What about Browning? Can he learn from that first game experience and improve, right? Because again, we're talking about trying to get down to 53 in a week from now. it's great if he can look good in OTAs and stuff, but can he put it out on the field? And so can he improve from this last week and go out there? And if he does, I think he's bought himself a slot on the roster.
Yeah.
But if he has a similar performance to last week, I mean, it's kind of tough to say, hey, you get 2 games, but that could be enough for him to get cut or get thrown down to the practice squad, if we really want to keep him and use a practice squad spot on him. So
for me, it's go ahead, John.
Real quick, this is just tough. I just want to say, so this is tough because he's right. You're watching these guys and they're playing very well in the preseason against 2s, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes 3s. Yeah. And you don't really get to see the 2s versus 1s often, right? Obviously, our top guys, our top 5 players on our team have been sitting for the last 2 games. But you're right, like especially with Stearns, with Cooper, right? We're talking about like, are they playing against the top tackle? Is he playing against the top tackle? Is he playing against the number 1s? I don't remember if he was. And Caden Stearns, I know he wasn't. Sometimes he'd go in there on certain specifics, but that's a good point, and you kind of have to take that. But we also have to remember that most of these guys that we're talking about, if they're going into the season, if they're making this roster, they're not going to be playing against the starters right off the bat.
Right.
Like they're probably going to be special teams players. And because we have guys like Von Miller and Kareem Jackson that are the starters. So it's all a give and take. I just wanted to point that out to you, John.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think we had that feeling definitely against the Vikings, but we're still talking about the Seahawks and now coming up against the Rams. Like these are very, very good teams and they have very good backups as well. So if these guys are performing well, I mean, I have a lot more faith going up against the Seahawks and winning 30-3 than I did going up against the Vikings winning 33-6.
Yeah.
So I think, that's something to consider as well. Like these are very good teams, well-coached teams, and they have depth as well, just like the Broncos do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be another good test against the Rams too. I'm really kind of excited to see that because that's, a team that figures to be in the conversation for postseason and further. To me, I think I'm kind of looking for who solidifies the bottom half of the receiver room. Does Trinity Benson make a claim beyond all doubt for a roster spot? You've got Seth Williams in there. I know the coaching staff has seen good things from him at times during the offseason. Tyree Cleveland, they really liked from last year, a holdover late round pick from last year that they've really liked some things that he's done. Who's going to be the 5th, 6th? Is there going to be 7 guys? Probably not. I would say, 6 is probably as many guys as you can make room for if you're going to keep more depth on defense like we think they're going to. I don't know who's going to be.
Deontay Spencer has been shown a lot of great things, and he was our starting returner
your
last
return
year.
Specialist as well. Yeah,
So
going to be some
that's
tough ones.
That's the one spot. So we're talking now, right? The next time we do this, we're going to have a 53-man. So I think it was asked, who's our surprise cuts? And I think the wide receiver room is going to be the hardest. If I'm Coach Fangio and I'm looking at this, I think the wide receiver room is going to be the hardest thing to be able to decide whether or not we're keeping Deontay Spencer or Tyree Cleveland.
Yeah.
Or Kendall Hinton, who has been showing, and Trinity Benson, right? Which one, like, as you're tossing these guys out and you're like, wow, man, these guys are all just actually good. Like, they're all playing very well.
If you want to talk about cuts that is really going to be sad to my heart, but I think it's going to happen. It's the only player on the Broncos that is currently in the Hall of Fame, that is Hinton. I think it's going to be hard for him to make this team just because of that depth issue. And I say issue, that's a really good thing for us. And then the other one is Deontay Spencer. I really wouldn't be surprised if he gets cut and we throw Tyree Cleveland or someone else to step up in that kick returning duty.
We got a Cleveland gone. We got a Spencer gone.
I think as far as the surprise,
if you guys had to choose Cleveland or Spencer, who are you keeping?
Spencer.
Cleveland.
Probably Cleveland, because I really don't think, this is going to sound bad, but I don't think Spencer brings as much to the receiving game.
Yeah.
Do you think he's too much of an isolated returner? He's too much of a specialist,
which is not a bad thing. But because we have so much need at other positions when we're cutting a team down, I think we can't just keep one return specialist. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Sue me.
Absolutely.
We'll find out next week, man.
I think it's, as far as a surprise cut, Trey Marshall. Last year's third safety. I think with Jamar Johnson and Caden Stearns, I think they've shown enough. PJ Locke has another guy back there who's had a couple good preseason games. I think between the three of those guys, you're going to find, and I'm not entirely sure that Marshall's. I think he's back practicing now from his injury.
Yeah, I haven't heard.
But I think between the three of those guys, well, that was fun. Between the three of those guys, I think you've got a replacement for Trey Marshall on the roster. So that's my pick.
Yeah, I can see that. The other one they have listed on the depth chart is the rookie Kerry Vincent Jr. Mm-hmm. They have him listed as a safety, but we drafted him as a cornerback.
Interesting. Yeah.
And he's been playing. He played well last week. So that's.
It's a length.
You could probably throw any of these guys into any defensive back position.
Yeah. But, and I think all of that's going to, again, we've been talking about it, but it's going to come down to which one gives you the most on special teams.
Right. These young guys, especially.
Mm-hmm.
What about a guy like Deshawn Hamilton?
Jared, Deshawn Hamilton hasn't been on the team for a few months now.
He's gone. They've already cut him once. I don't think they're going to call him.
Yeah, right. You can't unless they signed him again, which they didn't.
They didn't cut Deshawn. They cut Deshawn Hamilton.
Oh boy, Jared, don't ask the question again. Yeah,
I'm googling.
Yeah. No, he's on their depth chart right now.
But
Deshawn Hamilton, he's out.
Oh, did he get a
non-football injury related following an ACL tear?
Okay, yeah. All right, he's on the injured reserve.
I think he was waived, and no other teams picked him up. But there was talk about other teams picking him up.
Yep, he has been waived.
He's making the team. I think he's gonna be one of these cuts.
Jared, you put that pinky down. He was waived.
Yeah.
He's cut.
They've waived him once.
Yeah, he's not on the team. Right.
Well, he's back on the team now.
And I don't think he is.
In an official NFL sense, he is on the Broncos roster.
I see. Okay.
I'm gonna get like a mini fire.
Does he make the cuts?
For every time Jared brings up the world burning and brings up a player that we spend so much time talking about that has already been waived once.
Yeah. Right. Stop looking, Jared.
I'm looking.
Do you not trust me, Jared? I'm looking at it right here.
Look, you guys are giving me conflicting information.
Yeah. Anyhow, let's move on to some more players that are actually on the team and going to participate in Broncos uniforms this year. How about that? I didn't hear.
Bold strategy, David.
Yeah, I thought so too. Didn't hear Jared's snarky comment there, but I think we can assume it was sarcastic.
You're right.
Absolutely. Anything else? He's right. What do you guys think? Rams, any final things that you're really, really looking forward to? Any things that you're not looking forward to? Is there anything critically that you want, like clarity-wise? For me, more depth along the defensive line, too. Like, I think, we saw McTelvin Agim come back last week. Didn't have the best game back. I think he looked a little rusty in getting back to game action. Kind of expected that a little bit. We were hoping to see him kind of bust it loose a little bit, but he still could. Yeah. He'll be another guy I'm really watching. Deshawn Williams, on the other hand, number 90, who, kind of blew up his own name in rotational snaps last year. He did very well. Especially when Mike Purcell went out, I think he was one of the guys we really leaned on at that nose tackle position. He played defensive end too. He really did well, and he's been playing well again. So it's another area on this defense where you've got enviable depth if you're the Broncos.
Deshawn Williams looked like a beast in this game against Seattle.
Yeah,
he's one of our depth players, and not our starter. I'm perfectly okay with that. Just fuck like a monster out there for a few series out there. But back to your original question, David, as far as what we're excited for, when you say what are we not looking forward to, football is back. There's nothing that I'm not looking forward to. Yeah. I mean, come on. We finally have it.
I'm not looking forward to the week after this game where there's no football.
And nonstop discussion about the quarterbacks until a decision is announced. Right. That's going to be a rough week.
Okay, you got me there. But, seeing some of those starters play that we haven't seen yet, that Fangio's promised. Hopefully they do play one or two series, and seeing Von Miller, Sutton, Gordon out there, that'll be fun to see. And hopefully they dominate.
Yeah, that'd be real nice, wouldn't it?
It would be just perfect.
Yeah, I think to piggyback off that, John. Von Miller. I want to see Von Miller out there, even if it's just for one series. I want to see Cortland Sutton out there, even if it's for one series. I want to see what it looks like in a real sense, even if it's just for one series. I want to see what we're getting ready for in week 1. I'm excited. I'm stoked for this season, and I think this season's really looking a lot more hopeful than we've had in past. And I'm ready for it to start.
Yeah. And Steve brings up a good point. Probably the thing I want to see the most is the Rams playing their starters, so we can see how we actually match up to another starting defense, offense, whatever.
Hopefully they do.
Yeah.
To give us that
Something about that Seahawks game. They kept saying, they were like, oh, well, Denver keeps playing their 1s against our 2s. And it's like, shut up, dude. Like, just like, first of all, no, that's not our.
Guess what? We won 30-3. So you're
yeah.
A bigger fight than that. What are the Broncos supposed to do? Like, stop playing as good? You have to play with who you're playing.
Right. Yeah. You deal with what? Yeah. All you can do is beat who's in front of you.
So John says we're not going to see Stafford, but obviously it's okay because ultimately I'm just excited that football's back. Broncos football's back, and
absolutely.
God, it'd be fun to go to a game in Denver and go back to my football mecca, and it's gonna be great, man.
Beautiful. Beautiful. It's wonderful. Oh man. What else, guys? Any final thoughts? What do you think?
Oof. Last big things. I mean, I know we talked about it a lot already, but check out the post-game podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcasts, we're there. That one's been posted. Make sure you check out the Halftime Hash show that starts as soon as halftime begins. We'll be live. Jared will be leading that up this next week. So he'll be there, maybe John, but we got that going every week or every halftime anyway. And we'll be starting the pre-game podcast up soon once we get closer to the start of the season. We got a lot of content for you guys. You can always go to BroncosOrangeWeekly.com to find, the latest articles, videos, podcasts right there on the front page, as well as some fun, about us info as well, if you want to learn a little bit about who we are. So lots of fun stuff, Still weird to think about this being our 6th year and where we're at, and it's going to be fun. So, I think this is the first time that since we started that I've been optimistic, even without my orange colored glasses on, there's a lot of good things going on here with this Broncos team.
Can
you take those off ever? Is that a thing? Can you take off those orange?
Ever look through anything other than optimistic?
Just for a little bit. I got to put them right back on though, but I can't take them off. So. But yeah, so we got a lot of good stuff. It's going to be fun.
It's amazing. Man.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's going to be a beautiful season, boys. Ooh-wee.
I do want to say, and I know we say it every show, but I don't think you guys understand how much we appreciate your comments, your talking with us. I love it. We love it. We're here because of you guys. We're here to just discuss Broncos football with you. We miss it just as much as you guys do, and we really appreciate you guys. We should have an announcement, if not by next episode, by the 1st of September, a big announcement coming. So stand by for that as we figure out the officials on that. But we're definitely super excited about that. And again, thank you so much for talking with us. And
Orange Weekly is going all nude.
No, that's our OnlyFans. We already announced that a couple episodes ago.
Not anymore. Yeah, we're gonna.
It does not have a lot of traction.
We decided to lean into that. So now, spoiler alert: this is the announcement that we were teasing, but we don't want to be a tease. Not
Anyone
anymore.
who donates $100 to us will get a picture of Jared shirtless.
That's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Look, we need to stop promising things that I can automatically do without payment. So as we go forward, get excited for next month as we get ready for that announcement. So thank you guys again so much.
Okay. Well then, if there's any other closing thoughts, guys?
Man.
No. Over to you.
Nothing
for me. Nothing for me. Although I am excited for fans to finally be back as well. No more.
That's going to be fun to see.
in the stadiums, it feels so much better and real.
And real. Fact.
I have only 2 words left for the people, and it's the same 2 words that we end every show with, gentlemen.
That would be
Go
Broncos.
Go Broncos.
See you next week, everyone.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, sip is right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go.